Hello, everyone. I am the White Angel, and I am a conservative. So, today I wanted to talk to you about where you can go and where many millennials can go for Western cultural values and ideas. RPGs, actually. Because what a lot of these RPGs and mythical fantasy related things is taking pre-Christian and post-Christian Western traditions, basically sticking them in a big melting pot, melting them down, and then recombining them together into another form. That's how you get worlds like Tamriel and Westeros and Middle-earth and all that. And there's a few RPGs you can look to get an idea of some Western traditions and ideologies. Take, for example, first I want to discuss a lesser-known RPG on the old PlayStation 2 console that was Realms of EverQuest. It's called Champions of Norath. It expertly crafts a story centered around the sort of Old Norse and ancient Greek notion, not of good versus evil, but rather chaos versus order. That law and order was the highest good, and chaos and anarchy was the highest evil. You have a story about the normally anarchistic, violent goblins and orcs being whipped into an army by an evil shape-shifting sorcerer, serving a malevolent deity who is made up of pure hatred, called Inaruk. This neatly captures a unique image of the sort of chaos versus order narrative. The chaos of war versus the order of peace. The whole system falling apart due to unchecked violence. And the need for a hero. Sort of live out that hero fantasy that everybody loves. Similarly, there's another RPG in existence that I'm sure you're all more familiar with is Diablo. Diablo being based on the Christian Book of Enoch, which was not initially included in the Bible and considered heretical for many years. Some Christians are coming around to it as being more legitimate, but I feel like there might be some possibly xenophobic reasons for that. Christianity's history of xenophobia and vilifying other traditions is well documented, because it can be used for that end. But suffice to say, the Book of Enoch claims that the sons of God, i.e. a particular group of angels, came down to earth and had sex with women and produced children which became deities of a sort. The children of men. It's a very interesting notion. And you can see how they might be using that. But anyway, for sinister reasons. Diablo primarily utilizes this notion, except it's angels sleeping with demons, producing creatures called the Nephilim or Nephilim, which then later have their powers locked away, and they get chucked down to earth to become humans. And there's a demon lord who is a placeholder for Satan named Diablo, who's committing a genocidal war against the human race. This neatly captures the idea of the sort of demonic and angelic, as well as the idea of humans having some direct relationship with the divine, which is a fairly well-known Christian idea, although some consider it heretical. So yeah, we find tons and tons of Western ideas and cultural traditions found in RPGs. They're all over the place. You have Warcraft, which was not initially an RPG, it was originally a real-time strategy game, but it fit within the mythical fantasy genre so perfectly well. It was essentially a story of orcs representing very primitive, tribalistic, and even supposedly demonic traditions, versus the humans representing more modern traditions, worshipping something they called the light, which is associated with the sun and daytime and truth, which could therefore either be associated with sun worship or possibly even more likely, Jesus. But they may not have included that connotation necessarily. But it uniquely illustrates certain, idea of tradition versus tradition. Now, RPGs are great because they encourage group togetherness, support of one another, because you have to work and function in a party. And even in single-player games, one cannot win with a single character. You have to have a team. Even that can emphasize the idea of teamwork, even in real life. Not to mention the fact that RPGs frequently require pretty advanced mathematics to even calculate basic things like armor, and attack power, magic, and all that. So we're talking some fairly sophisticated mathematics, combined with teamwork, support, and socialization. Plus teaching certain elements of Western history and culture. So that's amazing. Now, ultimately, computerized RPGs in that aspect are inferior, but they're much easier to do single player if you don't want anybody to play with. So they work. They're good. Now, I do have plans for creating my own RPG at some point, which I'm going to call the Go RPG, or Grand Old RPG, where I'm going to do a more historically accurate D&D style RPG, which borrows a lot of the same mechanics, but it is more historically accurate, and I'm going to be including a wide variety of expansions into different historical eras, but primarily I'm going to focus my efforts on the basic system being that you're plopped down into a medieval era. I'd probably say early medieval, so early post-Christian. And you're going to have three basic categories of class. You're going to have military, stealth, and sageism. The military will include things like knight, and knight, archer, soldier, and things of that nature. Corner guard, footman, something like that. Stealth, you'll have the thief, rogue, criminal, bandit, etc. And under sageism, you'll have things like philosopher, monk, scholar, scientist, things of that nature. Very neat, actually. Sageism will have certain skills, like being able to pray to certain deities for it to restore health or to cure illnesses. And so forth. You'll be able to pray to God and he'll take away the Black Plague. Or if maybe do a pagan expansion, you get a disease and you join a temple, then you can perform sacrifice. You sacrifice an inventory item, and then receive a blessing which removes the disease. But you probably have to roll like a 6 or a 9 in order for it to work. Something like that. Then the Black Plague expansion would include a Plague Doctor as a playable class. He put you in the late Middle Ages with the frickin' Black Plague. You'll get the pre-Christian historical eras and later expansions. And it'll be all historically accurate and still have all the greatness and goodness of an RPG. You got to get a good backstory going, of course. I'll have to come with that in the future. So anyway, that's just, a place you can go for Western culture and traditions and an enjoyable time as RPGs. You have no idea the wealth of preserved notions and ideas of various eras that exist in RPGs. Especially if you know what to look for and if you have any kind of a scholarly bent. Anyway, please look up my books on Kobo.com. There will be a link down below. Buy my books and read them, please. Anyway, welcome to the Reformation.